When did racism against white people become okay? Joe Biden put white people last in line for COVID relief funds. Kamala Harris said disaster aid should go to non-white citizens first. Liberal politicians block access to medicine based on skin color. Progressive corporations, airlines, universities all openly discriminate against white Americans. Racism is always wrong. The left's anti-white bigotry must stop. We are all entitled to equal treatment under law. America First Legal paid for this ad.
All right, Jason Johnson, I saw this and I said, okay, this can't be real. This cannot be real. It is. I really have no words for it. I know you do. You always have words for every situation. What did you think when you saw this ad? And tell us, what does it mean? What are we trying to accomplish here?
Well, first off, I think it's really important to remember this is how a lot of white people in America think, right? Like, let's not be confused. Not all, but large numbers of white people in America think, and there's poll after poll that's shown this, that they think that discrimination against white people by, I guess, the government or society or culture is equal to, if not greater than, discrimination against black people. You have large numbers of white Americans who believe, without any factual evidence one way or another, that there are policies and structures in place that deny them access to health care, deny them access to jobs, deny them equal pay because they're white. But we know that's not true. We know that's not true from COVID rates in this country. We know that's not true from, we have a Supreme Court case about affirmative action right now where large numbers of black people have been kicked out of institutions of higher education. We know there's no systematic abuse of white people. We know this because of a certain reveal on another network earlier this week where a high prominent, high profile black person mentioned the fact that he makes significantly less money than less qualified or less experienced white people who do the same job. So there is no structural attack on white people, but that belief exists. And there are white people who can be compelled consistently in every single election by being told your lack of success in life, what you haven't accomplished, is because there's some mysterious cabal of liberal white people betraying the race and black people taking things from you. So I'm not surprised that this attitude exists. I am amazed that this commercial is running as prominently as it's running. I heard about it several weeks ago, and then now it's come to prominence and people are picking it up nationally, especially in a state like Georgia that voted for Joe Biden last year. But you know what? The old faithful of racism and anti-black racism is always going to be effective in a midterm year.
So you mentioned midterms, and I do want to get your take on this. Because I love that feed. You know how much I love the feed item you put up a couple weeks ago. These polls ain't loyal. I keep thinking about that. Now,
these polls ain't loyal.
When I think of the song, I think of these polls, which is probably better if you're going to sing along. Anyway,
yes.
So if the polls aren't loyal, and I asked you last week, if the polls aren't loyal, who is? My question for you this week, and I know you can answer it, is what do you think most people, what are most Americans looking for from midterms? What are they trying to say?
Well, it depends on where you are, right? And it depends on what your options are. So, for example, if you are somebody under the age of 30, and I think we consistently discount and undercount people under the age of 30 who vote, you've got a group of people who have never really seen a consistently good economy, right? I mean, they haven't. The economy wasn't great under Trump. The last year of his term was taken up by COVID. They grew up in maybe the latter part of the better economy under Obama, but now they're sort of in an economic slowdown again. 26, 25, 28-year-olds, they are frustrated. They want someone who's going to take care of their student loans and look after the economy. You get your 40-somethings, your 50-somethings, maybe married, maybe have kids. They've got other concerns. They're like, hey, why are my gas prices so high? Why is my insurance not covering my long COVID symptoms? Why am I having difficulty taking my kids in and out of school because there's some sort of outbreak? And by the way, I'm worried about a mass shooter coming in and blowing them all away because he's been activated by some MAGA nonsense that he saw on a TikTok reel. Those are vastly different concerns. And yet the solution seems to be You either choose a party that's interested in governing, which is the Democrats, or you choose the Republican organization. I've said for a long time, they're no longer a party. They're a dime store front for a terrorist organization. So that's the choice that Americans really have. The question is, who do they believe is going to be most effective at fixing it? I'm sorry?
That's a strong words. Now, let me ask you this. What do you, because I know you are friendly with a lot of people. What are some of your Republican friends, some of my best friends are Republicans, what do some of your Republican friends say to you when you describe the party / organization that way?
They say I'm being hyperbolic. They say I'm being unnecessary. But here's the truth. When I talk to some of my Republican colleagues who are professional Republicans, they'll always admit it behind the scenes. They always do. They were terrified. Look, the people who broke in and tried to kill everybody in the Capitol on January 6th, they weren't checking if you were an R or a D. Okay? There was no research or development as to who they were going to kill. They were just going to kill you. Okay? And the Republicans know that. They know that there are people out there that are willing to kill them because of crazy conspiracy theories about everything from grooming kids for pedophiles to kidnapping babies to drinking blood to using stem cells to stealing elections. They know that their organization has devolved into a personality cult for Donald Trump. Anyone who says that that's not the case is simply lying. Now, the Republicans that I know, and I know one guy in particular, we're having this conversation in Georgia, their attitude is, yeah, I know this organization has devolved into a bunch of maniacs who have pled to loyalty to a white nationalist fool who was twice impeached, who is consistently stealing government information and possibly selling it to the highest bidder. But I just think Joe Biden's too liberal. And so they want a Republican Senate or a Republican-controlled House in order to hold back what they believe is an overly liberal government. But I'll tell you this, I can't think of anything that is a worse example of government overreach than the Supreme Court saying that precedent for the last 50 years, whether it be affirmative action or abortion or voting rights, suddenly gets thrown out of the window. If you care about a government that is getting into your personal business pants and bedroom, I don't see how you can vote for election-denying people who are dedicated to a terrorist movement to take over the government, not to mention a formerly impeached, twice impeached president who steals national security information and hides it in the basement in his Florida mansion.
Well, let's get to this quickly before we take a break and get into a lightning round where we talk about movies and music and sports and all sorts of things, and mea culpas from Dr. Jason Johnson. So before we get to all that, I want to ask you, do you think that January 6th, is that something that Democrats want to bring up to remind their voters, and are Republicans in general distancing themselves from it? Or do some people say, hey, I'm going to bring it up? Somehow I could turn this into a conversation on patriotism and zeal in a good way and passion for the good government. How do you think both parties are addressing January 6th, if they address it at all?
So there's two quick answers to this. Answer number one, why don't you steal cars? Why don't I steal cars? Why don't most people steal cars? Because they think you'll get in trouble for it. Not because they think there's anything inherently wrong with stealing a car if you wanted it, but because they think they'll get in trouble. In America, in our culture, our sense of right and wrong is situational. We know something is bad because we see somebody get in trouble for it. If they don't get in trouble for it, we eventually stop thinking it's such a bad thing. It happened with marijuana. It happens with all sorts of abuse in this country. The fact that we know for a fact that sitting members, Republicans in Congress, were assisting with the people who attempted to overthrow the government, and none of those people have been taken out of the building in handcuffs. None of those people have been trying out for an orange jumpsuit, has shown so many Americans, well, I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. People were offended by it. They thought it was bad, but no one important has been held accountable other than some weird shaman guy and a bunch of other folks that nobody walking in and out of Safeway buying breakfast is thinking about one way or another. So that's the first problem. The second thing is this. Again, it depends on where you are. Tim Ryan, who is running for Senate as a Democrat in the state of Ohio, which is a mostly red state. I used to live there, running against this poser, Jim too. Vance, and literally J.D. Vance. He went on Fox last night and completely bodied him on January 6th. He's like, look, I'm on the committee committee for the Capitol Police. This guy paid to have people who I am friends with and I fund their jobs beaten and abused to take over the country. So you can make an argument. I think most Republicans aren't hiding from January 6th. They either say it's a bad thing or they say that it's being overblown. But at the end of the day, to your average person, if you don't see somebody go to jail, you assume, I guess it can't be that bad. So until Jim Jordan or Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or one of those people faces the consequences, or Ron Johnson up in the Senate, until somebody faces real consequences for attempting to overthrow the government, no, I don't think it has as much an impact on the election in a week and a half, an election in 5 days. And that's a shame and a disappointing aspect of where our country is right now.
All right, man, we got a lot more with you. We got some lightning round stuff to get to with you, Doc. Play that music. There it is. There it is. There's the music. Oh, there you are doing the dance again.
So I can do my bad dance.
We'll be back soon. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.